Only you are God. I invite you this night in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, the King of the kingdom of heaven. And it's an honor to meet with you through this live broadcast. This is the day that the Lord has made for us to rejoice and to be glad in it. This is Zoe Communion Frederick coming to you live on Facebook this Friday night. And the intention is for us to continue with our broadcast. We've been dealing with matters that are related to the kingdom of heaven, And today we are looking at what I'm calling the laws of the kingdom of heaven. The laws of the kingdom of heaven. Every domain, every dominion. Because when we talk about the word kingdom, we are discussing the domain of the king, And every domain, ladies and gentlemen, it has its own principles. The word law, I know we have related with the word law in the wrong way. We have rubbed shoulders with the word law in the wrong way. But the word law simply means the principles. It means the guiding and guarding principles of any kind of a system, any system that is in operation. That system is guided and directed by certain laws that allow for that system to behave the way it was supposed to behave. And in the same way, the kingdom of heaven has its own laws. It has its own principles by which this kingdom operates. Yesterday, we gave an analogy of the broadcast systems. We have systems of broadcast that are able to capture visual and also audio, coding audio and visual messages, and using some certain laws, they are able to capture these waves. And then through translating them from audio to vibration to electricity, then converting them through the transmitter and throwing them as signals, audio and visual signals. Then we have receivers on the other end that capture these things, these waves, and bring them either through a television or bring them through a computer, or even bring them through a radio receiver. That these are systems that are set in place to make sure that that thing functions without fail. So we have these waves, and they are everywhere. Yesterday I told you there are waves even as I'm sitting down here. There are waves even right now being transmitted everywhere. Some waves carry information, they carry data. Somebody sent a certain message, a certain radio broadcasted a certain message, a certain TV station broadcasted a certain message. Maybe it's a program that was broken into some certain bits, and they are just being transmitted. If I was to have a receiver of all these signals, I would be able to convert all these signals that are in the atmosphere and make it into something coherent, something that has color dimensions, all these depths, and everything that goes with the communication and the transmission of data. Can you hear these things? No, right now you can't hear them. Can you feel them? No, you can't feel them. But because I can't hear them, because I can't feel them, because I can't see them, it doesn't mean they are not there. They are in existence, and they are right now in continual transmission. There is data that is continual. The reason why I can't see them, I can't feel them, I can't hear them is because I don't have the right antenna. I don't have the right receptors that are able to capture this transmitted information, convert it from the signals, the wavelengths that they were sent through, transmit them, capture them and receive them, and be able to convert them into something coherent. That's the reason why I can't see them. That's the reason why I can't hear them. But they are here. I told you there is data, there is information. Somebody sent money, and there are all these money waves, data that is passing to and fro, carrying billions of shillings, billions of dollars, whatever denomination it is, carrying billions of pounds, British pounds, Australian dollars. There is money flying everywhere, but the problem is I cannot see the money, I cannot hear the money, I cannot feel the money, because there are systems that are needed. There are certain laws that guarantee if I was to see this money, there are some certain principles that must be put in place in my particular situation to be able to capture this information from the waves and translate it into something visible. Those are the principles you're talking about. Every existence has its own laws. And the kingdom of heaven, just like electricity, just like radio waves and visual waves, just like all these other types of worlds that are in existence, the kingdom of heaven has its own principles. And just like every existence has different worlds and different laws that guarantee the existence of that kind of a system, in the same way, in the kingdom of heaven, there are laws and principles that govern the existence of the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, there are different frequencies, there are different vibrations that are happening right now, and none interferes with the other. None collides with the other in the air. Aeroplanes, they fly coordinated by some certain systems that guide them in a certain way, and this aeroplane is able to come from a certain airport, guided in the air, and it lands precisely the time and the place it was supposed to land because of the precision of these systems. Therefore, these signals that are in existence in the air, they don't get scrambled up. There are billions and billions of signals being sent right now, but we are having the same world. We have the same planet where all these things are happening. The same way, when we hear about these frequencies and we hear about these systems that are in operation having different laws, the same way we are using these terminologies to describe realities, to describe dimensions, to describe what you might call worlds, frequencies in the air. They describe different worlds. They are like now in the system we have in our country. There are various companies that have received some certain frequency, a certain wavelength through which to send their communications. So you hear there is this company that sends its frequency, its communication through a certain wavelength, and there is this other communication company that uses a certain wavelength to send their communications. And they just go from encoding to transmission to reception to decoding. They go seamlessly, and these things happen. Why? It's a frequency. It's a certain frequency that is in operation. They can occupy the same space. All these companies' wavelengths, they can occupy the same space. They can be in the same room. You can have 3 different types of phones, or even the same phone, but has 2 lines. One from a certain company, this other one from a different company, and you can send the same message using these 2 lines, and they will go to 2 different destinations at the same time. They are happening in the same room, they are happening from the same phone, but because these frequencies, they are different, they shall vibrate on a different dimension, and they shall break from this phone, be transmitted using electricity, send into different directions, and they shall be received almost immediately on the other end. That's what you're talking about. You can be occupying the same space. 2 things can be occupying the same phone, but they're in different worlds altogether. Therefore, that is how to describe how, number one, you hear scriptures, and we read that in the book of John chapter number 3 yesterday, how God can be in a place called heaven. A place, that reality we call heaven. God can be in heaven, but at the same time, God can be with you right here and right now. The same way, you can be sitting with me right now, but at the same time, you are 24/7, 365 in the dimension of heaven. It is not a place you go to. In that split moment, you are in these realms, the physical realm, whereby you inhabit a certain body and you're engaging in a certain activity in the physical, but at the same time, you're in the realm of the heaven. Meaning, different frequencies, different realities, different dimensions, different realms, different realities, but occupying the same space. If we were to understand that, then everything we were taught concerning heaven, it changes. Everything you had been taught before about a heaven being a place that you will go to, some place beyond the stars, some place that Jesus went to make for you, when we were told in our Father's house are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would have told you I go to prepare a place for you. So we have been indoctrinated to believe that Jesus went to a certain place outside there beyond the galaxies to build a home for you. If you were to understand, there are some big words that have been used, especially to us, people who have been theologically trained. Personally, I've been theologically trained. I've gone to Bible school and I've been inculcated in a certain system of theology. There are words that you are taught, big words, something like omnipresence. Omnipresence, the word omni meaning every time, everywhere. The word omni simply means every. So omnipresent means everywhere, present at the same time. And we were told one of the attributes of God is that God is omnipresent or omnipresent. So God is everywhere at the same time. Now, for God to be omnipresent everywhere at the same time, then two things needs to be available, two qualities needs to be available. Number one, that God must be not limited by time and space and things to do, all the parameters of distance, dimensions, all these things, they are not qualities to that God. Number two, that thing that you are calling the existence of God, it cannot be localized to a place. You can't localize that God. For that God to be omnipresent, number one, God need to be beyond material. And number two, that God must exist in a certain realm that is beyond time and space. Those are the two parameters that guarantee omnipresence. It means if God is omnipresent, it means God is everywhere at the same time, and that God must be, number one, not limited to space and must not be limited to time. Going far beyond that, we need to understand that just like the radio waves are everywhere present. As long as you are on this planet, radio waves are flying everywhere. Communications are going on, telecom, intercommunications is happening right here and right now. Billions of messages are being transmitted. The only way to tap into the world of these communications is when you are able to tune, and we discussed that yesterday. If you are able to tune and have your antenna tuned to receive these frequencies, then you are able to discern the communications that are happening right here and right now. Billions of communications. In the same way, in the kingdom of heaven, if your ear is tuned to hear, and we read the book of Revelation, if your ear is tuned to hear the message, to tune to understand to capture, number one, decode and interpret the message of the spirit or the message of the heavens, then you are able to live according to that dimension. You are able to live beyond the laws of physics. You are able to live beyond the laws of mathematics, because in the realm of the kingdom of heaven, it is a realm beyond. It does not, at times it negates all the laws, because it negates gravity, it negates the principles of mathematics and physics. It goes beyond, it supersedes. We in the kingdom of heaven, one of the laws of the kingdom of heaven is not breaking the laws of existence. It's not breaking the laws of physics and thermodynamics and all the kinetics that we have on the planet. It is to supersede them, to go beyond them. For example, we are living right now in what physics calls a three-dimensional world. It's a world that is determined by length, width, and height. Everything is perceived that way in the physical realm. There is the length, there is the height, and the depth. In the universe that we are in, everything is interpreted that way. The only way to be able to perceive matters like distance, the matters like the depth of a thing, or the length of something, or the width of something, how big someone is or something is. You can only discern that thing if you understand the parameters of a three-dimensional world. For example, you might say a cube, we have a certain box, every side is equal. You are calling it a cube, and when you say this cube has a height, there is a certain dimension that goes this high. There is this dimension that is called the length. It is this long, and it is this the breadth or the width of it is this much. You are not describing three different things. You're not describing three different parameters. You are describing the same thing. You are describing a cube. You are describing a cuboid, but you are discerning the parameters inside that one thing. In the cube, the height of the cube occupies the same dimension as the length of the cube, and also the breadth of that cube. They are occupying, they are three separate measurements. It is a height, it is a length, and a width. There are three different measurements. Actually, if you are to say a cuboid, because in a cube they are the same. If we say a cuboid, the height might not be the same as the length, and the length might not be the same as the width. It's a cuboid. There are some lengths that are longer than the other. If you are talking about what do you call it? If you're talking about like a prism, a pyramid that has four sides and a cuboid or a cube at the base, all these sides, they are different dimensions. And when you mention the height or the one of the slanted height, the breadth and the length, they are describing two different parameters. This is a height, this is a length, this is a breadth. But when you hear these dimensions, you might be thinking we're describing three different places. They are not places, they are units to calculate the same space, to calculate the same item. Therefore, I want us to have this analogy. We have a certain dimension that here we are going to call the dimension. We call this dimension flatland. In this physical dimension, we use the three dimension. We call it a 3D world: length, breadth, and height. The 3D world. Try to imagine a certain imaginary land, a certain imaginary dimension that is called the flatland. This flatland doesn't have the dimension of height. They only have the length and the breadth. Everything in that dimension is flat. It can only be measured or determined by length and breadth. There is no height. So theirs is a two-dimensional world. It's a two-dimensional two-dimensional world. Try to imagine someone coming from a two-dimensional world, and they are told of a certain realm or a certain reality called Earth, where everything is perceived from a three-dimensional world. Try to imagine. There is a land, a figurative land, just like Alice in Wonderland. We have a certain wonderland called the flatland. This flatland is a two-dimensional world. It is the only way you can design its reality is to design it using the length and the breadth. There is no height. Length and the breadth is a flat land. Everything, their vehicles, they are flat. Humans, they are flat. Trees, they are flat. You can only measure the width of a tree and the length of a tree. You can't measure its height because everything is flat. Try to imagine you are living in such kind of a world, and you are told of a certain world that exists. It's a reality, it's a dimension in existence, and this dimension is a 3D world. That news by itself, it would sound miraculous. It would sound like something beyond the 2D world. You can't imagine that there can be a certain dimension called height because you have grown accustomed to a flat land. You have grown accustomed in a certain dimension where everything is flat. As long as you're able to design something, you design it in length and in width. And so you are told by a certain quote unquote someone who comes from another dimension, which is a 3D dimension, a three-dimensional world. He appears in your two-dimensional world and he becomes like you. He turns from 3D and enters your flatland, and he has only two dimensions, and he comes and tells you, I come from a place and I existed before I appeared here. I existed in a certain place where you can have a height. What a miraculous message. What a crazy idea. The minds of the people in the 2D world cannot understand. How? What do you mean? You mean I can have an inch in height and I become a 3D object, not like a sheet of paper? You mean I can have, you can imagine, even a sheet of paper has a dimension. It has a height. I want you to imagine that. You mean I can exist in a place or in a certain realm where I can have a height And this person tells you, yes, you can, because that's where I come from. Actually, for me to be in your 2D world, I had to lower myself. I had to bring myself. I had to give my height ID. I had to give a certain divine prerogative called height so that I may come to your flatland. I appear here in your flatland, but I want to promise you there is an existence far beyond this 2D world that is called a 3D world. What a miraculous message. Actually, you might call that 3D life a miracle. According to the laws of physics, that is a miraculous world. But please, I want us to understand that is the same message that you're talking about, the message of the kingdom. The message of the kingdom is a message of a higher realm of, if I was to use the two images that I've just said, it is like a message of a 3D realm that is being taught in a 2D world, two-dimensional world, hearing the frequencies and the message of a 3D realm. They sound so miraculous. They sound out of this world, and of course they are. But the good thing with the message of the kingdom is that it's not just talking about another world outside there. It is talking about how can this 3D world be in operation in the midst of a 2D world. How can it operate? And for it to operate, that's why we are talking about the laws. There are principles that are put in place. When these principles are put in place, the 3D principles put in the place in the world of 2 dimension, it appears like they are miraculous. These things appear like they are supernormal. These things, they appear like a supernatural events. It doesn't mean that they are beyond natural. Of course, they are above natural, because for them to operate, they operate in the natural world, the 2D world, but they operate from the realm of the 3D. It is not something beyond comprehension, but it is something that is slightly above human understanding. I want to tell you the reason why we read the book of 2 Corinthians chapter number 4, that these things, though they function in the realm, though the kingdom of heaven is functioning in the realm of the physical earth, a carnal-minded person, a carnal-minded man cannot comprehend these things. They appear like utter stupidity. They appear like things that are beyond comprehension. It's not that they are beyond comprehension, it's because the realm from which these people are operating, or our finite minds operate from, they don't operate from the realm of the infinite, they operate from the realm of the finite. That's why in scriptures, when Paul is trying to explain these two different dimensions, the dimension of the physical and the dimension of the kingdom of heaven, they use statements like this. You hear someone like Paul saying, the things which are seen, visible, they are temporal, but the things that are not seen, they are eternal. Now, eternal is the higher dimension. The things that are temporal, the physical, they are the lower dimension. And one is affected by the other. The realm that is higher is the one that affects the realm that is lower. The kingdom of heaven refers to that vast spiritual realm, that vast spiritual reality that is above the things that can be seen, the things that are temporal. As long as you can see it, as long as you can hear it, as long as you can touch it, as long as you can taste it, that is temporal. But the things that are eternal, the things that are spiritual in reality, they are the eternal things, and they are the higher dimension. That's what you're talking about, the kingdom of heaven. Now, I want you to understand tonight, all spiritual reality, it emanates from this one realm. It emanates from this one realm that you are calling the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of spirit. All spiritual reality, everything that is spiritual, all reality that is spiritual, it has its inception and it has its beginning from this one realm that is called the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of spirit. Now, this kingdom of spirit, it doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have a causative agency. It is an eternal. The word eternal means beyond time, without time. Actually, for us to understand eternity, eternity does not mean a long time. Eternity simply means without time. Time is a concept that was created by human beings trying to understand reality. But beyond that calculation of time, matter of hours, minutes, days, seconds, all these things, months and years, centuries, millennia, beyond those calculations, beyond the calculations of distance, millimeters, centimeters, kilometers, miles, all these permutations, beyond this dimension, there is a stillness that is beyond all these parameters that is called the world of the spirit, or the kingdom of the spirit. This kingdom of the spirit has no unit of measurement. It doesn't have past, present, and future. This realm of the spirit doesn't have up, down, left, right, all these dimensions. It is a realm that is incalculable. It is up and above all these units of determination. This realm, which you are calling the spirit realm, it doesn't have a beginning, neither does it have an end. We are right now in a certain continuum that is called time and space. And even within that limitation of time and space, it is within the encompassing nature of the thing that you're calling the kingdom of the spirit. The kingdom of the spirit overwhelms everything else that is within time and space. I want you to understand that. Eternity or spirit doesn't mean a long time. Eternity simply means without time, without dimensions, without measurements, without permutations, without the units of time, space, light, and things like that. Beyond the limit of time and space, that is a realm of the spirit. It's called the kingdom of the spirit. Now, the reason why Jesus came, he came to remind us, to bring to our cognitive understanding that realm of the kingdom of the spirit was where we came from. It's like we forgot, and we shall be seeing scriptures in the future. We shall be seeing scriptures that the reason actually why we have this book, it is to bring to our memory, to bring to our understanding of our eternal nature. Are you understanding? Jesus did not come to bring eternity. He came to remind us of eternity. We came into the realm of time. We had a time of birth, and we forgot that before we were born, before we were conceived in our mother's womb, we still existed. Time did not create us. Eternity did. The realm of the kingdom of spirit is our habitation before we appeared here. Please, I want you to get that. The purpose of the coming of Jesus into these two, in the analogy, coming from the 3D to the 2D world, was simply to remind every human being that we have an existence that began before we came here. Your birthday was not really your birthday. And I know some things that I'm going to say may sound out of this world. I want to tell you, and I tell you emphatically, and I want you to hear it from my mouth, you don't have a day of birth, neither do you have a time of death. Never. You did not begin to exist when your father and your mother decided to have a child. Let me read some certain scripture for the sake of these ideas. The book of Jeremiah, there is something that is mentioned there in the book of Jeremiah, and I want you to hear it and hear it with your spirit. Listen to this from the book of Jeremiah, chapter number 1. Jeremiah, chapter number 1. This is how it begins. I love sharing this with students, especially in high schools. Listen, the words, this is a story. These are the words of Jeremiah. It's usually said that Jeremiah dictated it to someone. I think it was Baruch or someone who wrote for him this document. So whether he wrote it or he said it and someone wrote that's not the idea. The concept is these are the words. These are the words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, of a priest that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin. So that word, verse number 1 of Jeremiah chapter number 1, is describing a time continuum. Is describing someone, and he's describing himself based upon a certain people. He was born in a certain context. The context was he was a son of Hilkiah. And who is Hilkiah? Hilkiah's occupation was that he was a priest. He was part of a priest that were in a physical land that was called Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, where the tribe of Benjamin was living. So he's a Benjamite. He's describing himself in a certain context. The context was he was born a Benjamite. He was born in a family of priests. His father is Hilkiah, and they were living in a land of Anathoth. Okay, that is the physical context. Then number 2, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So he not only describes his descent or his descendants, he also describes his geography. He gives us a socio-political context. He was living in the days of Josiah, king of Ammon, meaning you can trace him back in the lineage of when this king was ruling in that geographical sphere. This word of the Lord, there is the word of the Lord that found him. There is a certain eternal concept. And this is what I want you to understand. There always has been and will be an interaction between the realm of the spirit and the realm of the physical. The two are not separate. They are mixed one to the other. One invades the other and infuses itself in the other to translate the other and lift it to another context. Almost every time there is something that comes into the realm of this physical, the realm of the physical context, the geography, the genealogy, and it comes in that context. And when this thing that comes from the divine or the spirit realm comes from the kingdom of the spirit, it changes this time concept. It changes this locality, this personality to agree to what this realm of the spirit is saying. And that is the whole story here. So there is something that is called the word of the Lord. Now it is interesting to note this term that is used as the word of the Lord. In my Bible, it is 1697. That word, the word. I want us to find out what is this thing that came to this young man in the context of these kings. The word of the Lord, 1697. It is a Hebrew term in the Hebrew Chaldean. I think it's Debar or something. 1697. In the Hebrew dictionary, the word 1697. Yes, actually it is the word Debar, Dabar. This word comes from 1696, and the word 1696, it means to arrange, it means to speak and to subdue. That is to command, to commune, to communicate, to declare, to destroy, to direct, to explain, to express, to give an interview, to name, to promise, to pronounce, to propose, to repeat, to say, to speak, to be a spokesman, and to give a suggestion. Okay, that is Debar, 1696. But now 1697, Debar, from that meaning that we had in 1696, it means a matter. When you hear the word of the Lord, it means the substance of God. It means a matter as spoken of, or a thing. It means an adverbial or a cause. So it is the word of the Lord, the Debar of the Lord, is not just a speaking of the Lord. When the Lord speaks, the word that comes from the Lord, it is a matter. It is a substance. It is something that causes. Actually, it is called a cause. The word of the Lord is a causer or a causative agency. It comes to cause something. Are you understanding? That's the Debar. To whom the Debar, the cause of the Lord, came in the days of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So the causing, that there is a cause, there is a divine cause that is coming to a particular human being in a certain geographical context, in a certain socio-political context, to change his perception. It is the causative agency of the Spirit that will come upon this man to cause him to have a different perception. Are you understanding? To cause him to see things in a different way. So the Debar of the Lord came in the days of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. It came also in the days of Joachim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, until the carrying away of Jerusalem captive in the 15th month. So he gives the time frame. This Debar of the Lord, this causative word, this causation of the Lord, it came during this time frame. What did the Debar say? And the word, that Debar of the Lord, came to me, saying, before I formed thee, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations. That is the cause. So, I want you to imagine this man by the name of Jeremiah. He has lived half of his life minding his carnal life, minding his, we saw the term, the natural man, and we say that word natural, psychikos, simply means bestial life. He's minding his bestial self. He's minding his own bestial life. And then there is this causative agency from the divine. It comes upon him and starts to inform. The word inform, it doesn't mean to give data to. The word inform means to form him from the inside. This Debar is forming this man from within with a certain causation to try to show him that whatever you have thought yourself to be up to this point might not really be who you are. It says, for him to understand the Debar, the causative agency, the Debar takes responsibility for forming this guy. Because it says, before I formed you. Up to that point, the principles of biology in the time of Jeremiah, maybe the teachers that were teaching him in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin, they had told him that there was a certain microscopic organisms called the sperm and the ovum that fused in a certain, and there was meiosis and mitosis that divided and formed him. They just told him he was simply a biology. You are just a biological happening. Your father and your mother infused their male and female gametes to create your physical biology. They never described who you are. They simply described your biology. And actually, according to scripture, we are not a biology. We are not just a because basic biology makes us a psychikos. And a psychikos, according to Paul, is a beast of a field. You are not different from a cow. Just the physical biology doesn't, you have the same chromosomes, almost the same chromosomes as a rat. A guinea pig has the same chromosomes almost as you. You can imagine. There is no difference between you and any other animal on the planet. But the thing that makes a distinction is an awareness, the Debar of the Lord, the causative agency of the Lord, hitting your mind and shows you something up and above physical biology. And that's what is making us to be different. That is what you're talking about, the kingdom of heaven, the reality of the spirit. If you don't understand the reality of the spirit, you live just like a beast of the field. You are being born, living, dying, killing other people. It makes no sense. Going hungry. Like now, Kenya is suffering. It's suffering. My nation is suffering because there are some people who think we are just physical biology. So they are treating humans without any divine understanding. So they can use people. They can manipulate people and use system to govern people. It doesn't matter how. Whether they die or they don't. You can imagine. There are humans right now who are taking high seats of authority in pieces of land, real estate on the planet, and they determine the course of a human being. They plan their days, they plan how they are going to live, and with who and where and with how much. Imagine someone sitting down and with a certain cabinet or with a certain council starting to plan the lives of men, deciding what will happen to the other sons of men. It doesn't mean that he's born with gold, he has a golden face. He's just sarx, S-A-R-X, carnal flesh, just like the meat of a cow. That's how people are. They are just, but they sit down because of a certain thought they have, a certain high-mindedness, and they think they can control other human beings. Why? They are bestial in nature. They don't care what happens to other humans. They don't care as long as they have positions of prominence. They don't care what happens to everybody else. That's where we are. So, the day bar of the Lord, this causative agency, it comes to this man to give him a basic principle, a basic core understanding, a foundational principle of understanding that will change him from being a beast of the field to become a divine son of God. The word of the Lord came to me. And it said, before I, meaning there is a divine causative agency. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Therefore, it means before I appeared in my mother's womb, I pre-existed that estate. I pre-existed conception. Before I was in my mother's womb, I existed. And this day bar is saying, I knew you. Therefore, before I existed in the womb of my mother, I was known as the knowledge of the Lord, because he knew me. Therefore, I existed as something knowable. I existed as the knowledge of the Lord. Have you ever heard of the word of knowledge spoken about in the New Testament? The word of knowledge is not something that people talk about in church. The word of knowledge is your pre-existent state. You are not stupid. You are knowable and knowledgeable. You knew something. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. The word knew here, 30:45 in the Hebrew Chaldean Bible, 30:45. Let's find out what this word is. I knew you, 30:45. This is the word. The word in Hebrew, 30:45. Where are we? It's here. The word is a Hebrew term, yada, Y-A-D-A. And the word yada, it means to know. It means to ascertain by seeing. That is to know. It means if I know something, I've ever seen it. So, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Therefore, I did not appear when I was born. I was visible, because yada means to discern by seeing. What is the other term for yada? Yada, it means figuratively, literary or euphemism or inference. It means includes observation, it means care, it means recognition, and it means causative instruction designation. Causative instruction and designation. It means to discern, it means to comprehend, it means to distinguish. You can imagine, before I was formed in my mother's womb, I was distinguished. I was distinct. I was discernible. I was visible to the person who I existed in. Before I appeared, the Lord says, that burden of the Lord, that debar of the Lord says, I yada'd you. I knew you. I could recognize you. Therefore, there is a form I was before I appeared in this body. I appeared in this body because this body was the best suited for me to be in the parameters and the environments where I am. This is the body that was suited for me to appear in Kenya, East Africa, and Africa, in the rest of it, for me to appear there. All this body had all the best qualities fitted for me, but this body is not who I am. That is what this word is coming to tell me. This body is where I live, and the more I become interactive with this day bar, the word and the causative agency that is coming from the Lord, the more I understand how I pre-existed my coming here. Therefore, I cannot allow myself to be determined and to be controlled by my conditions of birth. Never. I cannot relegate myself to be living this life based upon the environment that I found once I got born. Where I got born, and the environment around which I found myself, the family, the people, the education system, whether they were rich or poor, whether they were peasants or whether they were slaves or kings. These parameters do not define who I am. That is what is being said by this prophetic word. The prophetic word is coming to this guy called the neighbor of the Lord is telling Jeremiah, you have an existence before you came. And I want you to understand, because if you don't understand these things, it is impossible to understand the kingdom of heaven. It is impossible for you to understand what brought you here, because you did not come to find your purpose here. You came with a pre-existing purpose. You came from a certain land, you came from a certain existence, and you materialized or materialized, because one of the meanings of the word debar, the word of the Lord, is matter, the cause, a matter. You materialize what the book of John says, and the word became flesh and dwelt amongst men. It has nothing to do with Jesus. The word becoming flesh and dwelling amongst men is the principle of every human being that comes on the planet. Remember, we are dealing with the laws of the kingdom of heaven. Every human being that comes on the planet, you come as the word gained flesh. You are having a dimension in you called heaven, and you're having a dimension in you called earth. Heaven and earth merge. By the way, that is what is in the Bible called Eden. Eden is not a garden that is far off in the past. The word Eden means a moment. It means a time, let me use the word a mingling, a mixture between timelessness and time, a mixture between invisibility and visibility, and a joining between what is eternal and what is physical. When these two realms merge or kiss each other, that interlink is what we call heaven, because Eden. Because in Eden you have things natural and things spiritual kissing. There is an interaction between divine things and physical things. Are you understanding what I'm talking about tonight? That is what you're describing. The principles and the laws of the kingdom of heaven is that you must understand you are not just a psychikos. You are not just a physical, bestial, natural man. You are a divine treasure in an earthen vessel. You need to understand. You are. I didn't say you have. I said you are. You are a divine treasure inside a carnal body. Before I formed you, in your mother's womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I sanctified you. The word sanctify means to put a specific purpose to. I think so. 69:42. I sanctified you. What is this word in Hebrew? 69:42. What is to sanctify? To sanctify has nothing to do with people talking in a certain language. 69:42. What is to sanctify? Because it says, I sanctified you. The word is Kadash. 69:42. Kadash, Qadash. And the word Kadash, it means to be. I love this. To be. The word to be, that is the causative meaning of I am, to exist. To exist is I am. When the existence is, we call it to be, to become. So Kadash, it means to be, it means to cause, it means to make, it means to pronounce, it means to observe, and it means to make clean, to appoint, to cleanse, to consecrate, to dedicate, to hallow, to become, to keep, to regard a place or a thing holy, to invite and to prepare and to proclaim something as sanctified or holy, complete with W, W-H-O-L-L-Y. Not just holy, hallowed, you're walking in a certain angle. The word sanctified means whole, complete. It means what you are meant to be. It means to be. I sanctify before you were born, I caused you to be. Therefore, birth doesn't make you. I wish you understand. The way you are born, the maternity you are born, the family you are born in, they did not make you. The academic status, the things you went through academically, they don't make you. I came sanctified. Before you were born, I sanctified. It has nothing to do with just setting apart. It means to be. I came being. Therefore, I came as I am. I came in the nature of where I came from. Then the person who is caused me, the causative agency, the Deba, the word of the Lord said, you are I am. So before you were born, you came as the I am. Any other name they gave to you, it was for the sake of identifying this flesh. It has nothing to do with identifying you. You calling me Frederick Mora Mokiri, that is calling this body. The spirit I am, the person that I am is God. To be. The word sanctify means to be, Kadash, Q-A-D-A-S-H. Kadash, to be. I sanctified you. And the other word, I ordained you a prophet to the nations. That's another big word, to prophet. Who are these people called prophets? What is a prophet? 50-30 in Hebrew Chaldean, 50-30. What is a prophet? Or who is a prophet? 50-30. A person that is called a prophet in Hebrew is the word Nabi, N-A-B-I-Y. And it is from 50-12 is the word Naba. Naba is a verb. Nabi is a noun. Naba, N-A-B-A, it means to prophesy, to speak or sing under inspiration, in prediction or in simple discourse, prophesying or to consider yourself a prophet. That is Naba, the verb itself. But now Nabi, it means a prophet or generally an inspired man, a breathed man. Now you understand why in the book of Genesis, the Bible says, and God formed man out of the dust of the ground, and he breathed into his nostrils the breath of lives. The word is lives, plural. He breathed. When man received the breath or the inspiration of the source, of the causative agency, man became a prophet. Prophet is not just behaving in a spooky way. Prophet simply is not even talking some things. The word prophet simply means you have been breathed by something. There is a certain breath that makes you distinct from everything else. You have been a beard. There is another thing that happened to you. You had been breathed or inspired by the divine. I sanctified you, I caused you to be, and I ordained you a neighbor to the nations. Therefore, before you are born, you came already inspired. It's not talking about salvation here. God has just found a young man. He's just found a young man, and the day bar has come, and he's now describing to this young man what he was. This is who you are. So it is up to this guy to follow the day bar or to denounce it. But the good thing with the Deba, once it comes upon you, you have no choice. And that's how I believe. To me, I believe everybody shall come to the knowledge of the will of God for their lives, whether now or later. Every human being, the greatest calling any human being can have is a call to bring people to the conscious awareness of who they are in God. That is the greatest calling. I can't leave what I'm doing right now. I can't. No matter what you hear I did, please understand, I have been called by the Father to clarify and to edify human beings, to come to the conscious awareness, to open the eyes of the blind, to the awareness that there is a realm they came from, and that realm is still where they are, because Jesus said, the Son of Man, the one who came down from heaven. You see that the one who descended is the one who ascended, the Son of Man who is in heaven. So it is the Son of Man or the Son of God. He's a human being having flesh and blood, but he's living a dual nature. He's living in this flesh, this body, but he is in another realm. He's coming from another realm, and he lives in that realm. The Son of Man who is in heaven. In heaven. It's not a place, it is a realm from which you operate. That is a realm that informs us. That is a realm that defines us. That is a realm that inspires us, because when you are inspired, when you are, number one, you are sanctified, you are caused to be. Second thing, I ordained you as a prophet, as an nabi, as a breathed, as an inspired being. Therefore, this scripture takes us back to Genesis to find ourselves as the breathed man. For me to exist on the planet, the Father, the Divine Father, simply breathed himself into me, and he caused me to be the I am. Are you understanding what I'm talking about? Discerning the laws of the kingdom of heaven. It's not a simple thing. You need to understand yourself beyond the carnal things. You need to start understanding yourself according to the realm of the spirit. Therefore, what do you find in scriptures? What is this? This thing that you call scriptures, this thing that you call the Bible, is a continuous record of happenings that we call supernatural events. It's not a record of history. It's not it's trying to look whether there was a flood on the planet. That's none of my business. So if there was a flood, so what? What am I verifying? So if there were animals that going in 2 by 2 and others going 7 by 7, how does it affect me? This is not a record of history. This is a record of his story, the story of God on the inside of me. Therefore, this is a continuous record of the supernatural happenings that happened from those times, things that were happening and they appeared out of context. You can imagine something that happens that cannot be explained according to the laws of cause and effect. Abraham and Sarah, they have a child, they have a baby, when they are 190 years old, respectively. 190 years old, they are having a baby. People who are past menopause, and they are having a baby. That has to be supernatural. But it's not happening outside there on the moon. There are supernatural things happening in the natural context. Why? Well, this angel is talking, the Lord, actually it was the Lord, when the angel of the Lord, talking about Jesus Christ appearing pre-incarnate, when this angel of the Lord is talking to Abraham, he's telling him, I'm going to come back to you at the time of the normal time of human. In other words, it will be 9 months. He's coming and he's going to give, your wife shall have a child. And actually, because you have laughed, he shall be called Isaac. You know, it is divinity coming into the context of a human being and bringing supernatural events. But these supernatural events shall be so supernatural that they will be natural. There are things, divine things happening in the human context to a point whereby humans without the Spirit of God, they'll think these are natural things. But they are not natural things. They are supernatural things. Are you understanding? So this book is a book of events that are divine coming in the context of time. It is about a certain Joseph, a young man who sold in slavery because of the jealousy of his brothers. And you might think it's the jealousy of his brothers that takes him to Egypt. No. It wasn't the jealousy of his brothers. The jealousy of his brothers was something that was being caused by the Lord, so that some years to come, this family is going to be saved from dying of hunger. I understand it. There are events orchestrated to save a certain genealogy. divine things happen in the context of time. It is the same thing. Moses is born, and because he's a godly or goodly child, you can imagine he's put in the river Nile, a place whereby we have the largest reptiles on the planet. But because this boy is there, all of them for that period of time, they turn vegetarian. Why? Moses is around. Miraculous things. This is the same guy who's going to cause plagues to come upon Egypt. He crosses the Red Sea as though he's walking on dry ground. Why are you talking? We are talking about supernatural events happening in the context of time. You can imagine. This guy lifts up his rod, and by the time you're waking up tomorrow, you're finding some food. You're in the desert, a place whereby you cannot fend for yourself, but you're waking up in the morning and you're finding food. You don't even know what it is. When you taste it, it tastes something like something you know, though it is not what you know. It tastes like something. Tastes like honey, like coriander seeds, but it is not that. It tastes. Actually, you call it, what is this? The word manna simply means I don't know what this thing is, and you are eating that thing for 40 years. You can't tell where it's coming from. In the morning, you're just waking up and you're finding dew on the grass. But when the dew is going, you find something that looks like flake, and you cook it. You can cook it to become anything. You cook it to become chapati. You cook it to become chips. Whatever it is, it becomes exactly that. You understand? So supernatural events. You are followed by a certain rock, a rock that gives you water all the time. By day, there is a cloud that is covering you. By night, there is a pillar of fire ahead of you. Supernatural events that are happening in the context of time. That's what we're talking about. The kingdom of heaven. It's not a place. They are events. They are happenings, spheres that are opening beyond time. You are living in a 24-hour day, but there are things that happen. You can imagine John on the island of Patmos. This guy is in a prison. He's in solitary confinement on a certain island because of the word of the Lord. But in that physical time, a certain specific day on a calendar, he is taken into a certain dimension and he enters into eternity. He's in the context of time, but he's taken to a place called it. He can see things past, present, and future. All of them at the same time. So the kingdom of heaven is not a place. It is a realm whereby there are interactions that happens between the times past, present, and future. You're in a physical dimension. You're in physical context. You're Elijah, Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, the priest, one of the priests who are in another in the land of Benjamin. You are in that context, but the things you hear, they're things eternal. They are things that predates your conception. The day bar of the Lord comes and it causes you to be lifted up within you to a certain sphere that recalibrates who you are, changes your genome, changes the chromosomes of a human being. You become a different man because of what has come. The realm of the kingdom of heaven. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go beyond here, but I want you to understand we have come to a place whereby, by understanding the laws of the kingdom of heaven, we'll be interacting in the context of time with some divine realities that are going to cause this lower realm called the realm of the natural to be shifted from what we have known it to be to what it has eternally been. Because what is up here, what we are calling the realm of the kingdom of heaven, is the eternal description and the eternal inscription of what this lower realm is. Before you came, before you were conceived in your mother's womb, I knew you. I knew you. I had a knowledge of. I had a knowledge. I had a knowledge of you. I understood you to be. I caused you to appear. You did not just come here for no reason. You didn't come here to hustle around. You didn't come here to try to find a purpose. Even the thing that people call salvation, please, I want us to understand. You are not just saved to go to a place. You are saved in a certain context. You are saved because there is a pre-existent a pre-existent program, and that program is what you're calling the kingdom of heaven. That's what you're calling the day bar of the Lord. That thing you're calling salvation, it's a taking you back, it's a reconciliation. It is connecting you back to who you are. It is connecting you to a certain sphere, a certain understanding of what you have always been. It is not getting saved so that when you die, you go and live in your mansion in heaven. That is backwardness of religion. It is connecting us right here and right now so that this physical body can be united with the realm from which it came from, so that we can create Edens, moments you can become the garden of the Lord in which everything we dominate over. Are you understanding? Part of what we shall be discussing in the future is the dominion mandate. What are we supposed to dominate over? But before we dominate, I want us to understand, ladies and gentlemen, we have been brought to a certain sphere, a certain level of understanding that is called the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is what gives us definition. It's not what we do in the physical. It's not where you are born. It's not who gave birth to you. It's not the context of how you found yourself, the village, the country, the parents, the education system, the financial system. Right now, my country is chaotic. But I want you to understand, even in the midst of our chaos, we are living under the auspices of the kingdom of heaven. And the day bar of the Lord, the word of the Lord is what defines what is going to happen, not only to us. It defines where we came from, defines where we are, and defines where we are going. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want you to forget that we are in the kingdom of heaven. We are not defined by natural law. We are defined by the law of the kingdom. God bless you all, and the peace of the Lord be with you. Amen and amen. Igwe, Igwe.